And we're back. I'm Hilary Bailey, and you're watching the Senior Care Conversation on Now Media Television. Welcome back, everyone. We are still chatting with Joe Reyes, CPA, consultant, and someone who's seen how money can bring families together or tear them apart. This segment hits close to home. The stress and division that unspoken financial issues can cause during times of sickness or loss. Joe's work goes beyond numbers. It's about peace of mind and family unity. So the problem facing many families is an unspoken money issue, and it often feels like one death or crisis could tear everyone apart. Why do family money problems often come out during sickness or after someone passes away?
Yeah, so that's a good question. If people have if nobody's talking about what to do if and um, when something happens, all of a sudden, everybody's thinking, well, I wasn't expecting that. Where did you get that from? Why is that? Why is this one favored over me? Because now you're having a conversation that should have happened long ago, right? So not being prepared for those kinds of conversations will create chaos, if and usually and and thinking in terms of mom and dad and the children, let's just say, because it's not always the case, but dad passes away, mom's left, right? And people, that's what happened in my family, and we were having these conversations. But you know, people make assumptions. Mom loves all of us the same. It's going to be equal, right? And then mom passes away or something goes wrong, and she's in a nursing home, whatever, and now you're starting to deal with hospice care, all kinds of wonderful situations, and then you start having the serious conversations then when the crisis is through the roof, emotions are sky high, and maybe people are starting to not get along as well as they should because it's a crisis situation, which is expected. People are going to start, they may find out the hard way that, well, mom just thought that this brother needed a little more support than that brother. And so maybe mom does love us all the same, but maybe she cares for one more than she cares for the other because that one needs more care, something along those lines. And families get ripped apart by not having these conversations, by not being prepared, by not planning. So all kinds of bad things come out of the woodwork. Somebody may be struggling financially, and only to find out that, maybe at mom's passing, they're not going to get what they thought they were going to get, and that adds to the crisis, adds to the negative energy that gets created in that situation. So it just behooves everybody to not make assumptions, uh, ask the questions with dignity, love, and respect, which is hopefully what a family is all about, and try to have an adult conversation and not be loaded up with a lot of negative emotions. And not every family gets along. And so you can only imagine how many families get ripped apart uh, because of greed or suspicion, or maybe somebody's on drugs
Yeah.
or unable to handle, take care of their stuff, and they, destroy everything in their lives. So the whole family is going to be wanting to consider that because sooner or later that conversation is going to be had.
Mm-hmm. I think something that I remember from being small is, we didn't really talk about money in our family. I know my grandparents never talked about how much money they had. My parents never talked about how much money they had. It just wasn't something, it wasn't a kosher topic to talk about, I think
Right.
people are more open these days talking about how much money they have, or because maybe we maybe we try to show how much money we have by spending and buying this and buying that, or how much money we wish we had. Um, so, what is the benefit of having hard financial talks before a crisis hits? To me, I would think there would be 100 benefits.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Let me count the ways, right? I
right.
mean, So I'm a dad, right? I got a 21-year-old son. I love him more than I love myself, right? So I
Hmm.
mean, he knows it. I mean, he's got me wrapped around his finger, and it's hard for me to like yank him in and put my foot down, which I do. But and I'm talking to him all the time about, what we have and what to do in the event of, because I want to see him flourish in life. I want to see him have a good life, right? Now, if I'm not going to do my part in that, that child can, wind up with a very bad surprise,
Hmm.
wind up having a miserable adulthood, right? So if you love your kids, you're going to help plan because most parents love their kids and they plan day-to-day life, to their benefit for the good of their family and the good of the kids. But this is a part of life also. And by not having the conversations, you could be feeding into a chaotic life for that child, your children in general, and grandchildren, right? So
Hmm.
by not doing what needs to be done, you're basically leaving behind chaos, and I've seen it so many times where it's so chaotic and then it gets expensive, because if
Hmm.
things are not in order, money that could have gone to the family and the kids or whatever is going to lawyers, CPAs,
Yeah.
all kinds of professionals, and then there's the courts, and then there's delays. And if one person challenges what's in the will or the trust or whatever, it can wind up going to the courts, and then that's more legal fees, more delays, and now you're dealing with you should be dealing with grieving. You shouldn't be dealing
Hmm.
with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but it doesn't have to be as nasty and ugly as it could otherwise be, right? So
Hmm.
I would say, you know, have the conversations, plan accordingly, be respectful of each other, and take into consideration who the players are. So if there's 5 kids, like in my family, having a trust maybe, and you can control your kids from the grave. You
Yeah.
can't do that with a will, but you can do that with a trust. But that planning part is, I can't express how important that is to keep the family unit intact or give it the
Hmm.
best shot of staying intact.
Yeah. So I mean, I completely agree with that. My mom, I know the conversations are uncomfortable, and I think it's like people are like, well, that's a uncomfortable conversation. I don't really want to have that. Well, let's have one uncomfortable conversation that could negate years of fighting and
Right.
complications. I'm grateful my mom set my brother and I down and were like, hey, this is what is what. This is what we're doing, so there's nothing
Nice.
that, so we're not like, oh, what are we supposed to, we know exactly what we're supposed to do. We know exactly what she wants. We know exactly how it's going to go. So for me, I'm so grateful because that just takes all of the fear out of it for me, or the wondering, because I know exactly what we're supposed to do. So I would wonder if maybe, if there are some family dynamics going on, which, like you said, all of us have some family dynamics. Would it help to maybe have someone like you in the room that can kind of lead the conversation? Have you done that before? Is that something you recommend?
Yeah. So when it gets icky, shall we
Mm-hmm.
say? When it
Yes.
gets icky, it's a good idea. And I've told clients this before. Look, I have a client right now, for instance, that the family unit looks like it's going to dissolve, right? And it's lit on the ugly side. So what I just tell people is just tell the other party your accountant said this.
Okay.
So if you want to, and that takes the pressure off for you because you're bringing a third party into the conversation, and I'm just doing what my accountant told me to do. That's what I just tell people, especially like if they're disputing with somebody, there's some kind of business conflict, or they have to ask somebody for something that's sensitive, they don't want to offend them. I said, look, just tell them my accountant said I need this, and you put the blame on the accountant. What are they going to do? Call me?
Yeah.
Then they're just going to do whatever they got to do, right? So,
Right.
yeah, use a third party. Say, hey, I was talking to my accountant the other day, and he brought up a good point. What's my estate plan looking like? Then I got to thinking about, hey, what are you guys? How about your estate plans? They say you're a family of 5, right? What are
Yeah.
your estate plans? Do you have anything? Well, what about mom? And then it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to appear like you're being greedy or you're trying to figure out, what you're going to get your hands on, should something happen to mom. but having that conversation for death, having the conversation for nursing home, like, hey guys, we don't need to talk to this in front of mom during Thanksgiving, but maybe we should have this conversation. And nowadays you have a Zoom meeting with everybody chiming in from all over the world. You have a family of 5 from all different 5 continents chiming in at the same time talking, right? So
Yeah.
it's easier to have that conversation, but it has
So
to be had again.
absolutely, you are completely correct. So I know you've talked a lot about the irrevocable trust. So I kind of want to go back to that. Is that a tool that families can use? Say no one is getting along, siblings aren't getting along. It's just not a close, tight knit family. So say if they set up an irrevocable trust, nobody has a say in anything and it just goes the way the trust says that it goes. So is that a tool that families who may not have the best relationship, is that a good tool for them to use where they won't have to have so much interaction?
It's an excellent tool because
Okay.
when you have a trust, you have to appoint the trustee. So if you have an irrevocable trust and you're healthy and all that stuff, you know what you're doing, you could be the trustee of your own trust, right? But that trust is going to spell out, this is what happens in this case, in that case. Let's say Junior is 18 years old and is dabbling with drugs and alcohol, and we all know that. And he's not going to school, he's not working, he's not going to college. You can put into that trust, like, Junior is going to get, I have a life insurance policy that pays into the trust, let's say, and Junior is going to get $100,000 when he hits 25 and has a bachelor's degree. And if he doesn't have $100,000, that if he doesn't have a bachelor's degree by then, or he doesn't have an occupation, a trade, or something constructive, and quit drugs, that 100,000 is going to go to the brother that he likes the least. You motivate the kid.
Yeah.
So and it's in the rules of the trust is in writing, and the trustee, you die, the next person on the list of trustees takes over. They are bound by those rules that are set in that trust. They cannot go and start changing things around, and you would need to speak to a lawyer to see if they can. But they can. My understanding is they cannot, because it's no longer yours. It belongs to the trust. So you can control your entire family from the grave.
Wow.
And I've seen businesses, funeral home, and actually, I've seen businesses uh, uh, owned by a trust, and it goes on and on for a long. The trust can be intergenerational. You
Wow.
can control your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids. You can go to town. What do you think the wealthy do? The super wealthy,
Yeah.
they do this stuff every day, twice on Sunday. They control their wealth with trusts and whatnot, and they can control the family. And so, yeah, the simple answer is yes, you can actually do that without, and then they can't argue with you because
Yeah.
it's in the trust. They
Yeah.
can try taking you to court, but it's in the trust.
Yeah. That's perfect. Joe, thank you for that amazing advice. Guys, we're going to be back in just a minute with a little more from Joe. We'll be right back with more insight, expert advice, and stories that matter to every generation.